So welcome everyone. I am Garbo Hearn. I am the former chair of our Kansas for the Arts, and I live in District 6, and this is our District 6 focus group meeting as it relates to arts and technology and the upcoming legislative boot camps. And so we are so happy that all of you have made it to make this afternoon part of your agenda to have this discussion. So I want to start by introducing our ED, our Executive Director, Erin Holliday. Say hello. And then Sandy Martin is the chair, current chair of our Kansas for the Arts from District 1. She's going to do a little housekeeping. And then Lenore Schultz, our Creative Economy Chair, will give us the focus of how we're going to go about it. And we're going to go in alphabetical order, and I'll be calling on you to share your story. So welcome all of you. And Sandy.
Thank you all for joining us. As Garbo said, this is a major project for us, and we think it's going to be very beneficial for everybody throughout the state of Arkansas. And our goal is to hear from you as to what you're doing and your thoughts on how to move forward with arts and technology in the future to benefit all of us with an open-ended idea. As mentioned in the emails, this is being recorded. Our goal is to maybe use some of these clips in a presentation, a highlight film for the introduction of the boot camps to kind of frame the legislators' minds around what arts and technology is from the people with boots on the ground. So we hope you don't object. If you do object or don't want any of your video or audio used, please let us know and we will honor that. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lenore Schultz, Dr. Schultz, who is also the chair of the Legislative Arts and Technology Boot Camps, and she's going to facilitate us through this process. So again, thank you all very much.
All right, well, first of all, I'm absolutely delighted to be meeting you. We could be doing it in person, but aren't we glad that we planned for Zoom, just in case? So how we ended up here, of course, you've all responded to the survey. So at least we have a baseline gathering of information. And now we're pulling from that survey into these regional focus groups. Arts districts are different than legislative districts. There's 8 art districts in the state. And this happens to be District 6 that was established through the Arts Council a very long time ago. We're simply following that same protocol. The focus groups, we're going to hear from each of you today on a very brief 1 to 2 minute summary of who you are and what you do, just so we can get to know you. But the real meat and potatoes that I want to get to after we have an idea of who you all are is actually, what are your really big dreams? You know, Senator Elliott always says, think big, what's the big dream? And this really all started with her. And looping back to that, we bona fide want to know, if you could remove barriers, what would that dream be for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Because I want you to think in terms of gardening and the fact that really what we're doing right now is sowing seeds for creativity in the future, for stuff we can't even imagine. So as we hear from each person, kind of keep that in mind, and then we'll see what ideas emerge from the session. So Garbo, I'm going to pitch it back to you to hear from our participants and learn who you are.
Okay, as I said, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Pamela Bax. Welcome, Pamela.
Well, thank you. I am Pamela Bax, and I am the Executive Director of Brandon House Cultural and Performing Arts Center. We're located at in a 17 square feet of space on 12th Street, the 12th Street corridor. And we operate under 3 pillars of program. Our creative education programs are our summer and after schools programs that expose youth to the arts. And our creative workforce development program work with Apt Promise, Disconnected, and Opportunity youth to engage them in experiential learning along the lines of videography, photography, art, audio and music production. And then our last pillar is performing arts and cultural events.
Okay. Well,
I'll
welcome.
stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Teresa Bimnister. I hope I didn't kill your last name.
No, that was perfect. Hi everyone, my name is Teresa Bemnister. I am Associate Curator at the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. I focus on contemporary art, and I'm speaking today as myself rather than a representative of the museum. One of my recent focus areas for research has been how video games influence contemporary art, so this is a topic that's very close to my heart. I think sometimes when people think about technology, they only think about things that are digital, but technically technology is just a tool. So this pen in my hand right now is a form of technology. But artists have been using technology since artists existed. But I think most recently they've been using things like digital video, digital photography, virtual reality, augmented reality. There's plenty of artists who use software to create their artwork, artists who use technology to promote their artwork. And in terms of museums, we use technology as a tool to share interpretive material with our visitors. We use it as a tool to keep in contact with our visitors. We use it as a tool to keep track of our artworks. So really, there's all sorts of ways that technology intersects with the art, and I'm happy to be joining you all today.
Well, thank you for your input. We're glad you're here. Next, we'll hear from Shelby Feigl.
Hi, everybody. I know a few people on here, but nice to meet you if I haven't met you before. I'm the director of the Center for Community and Economic Development at the University of Central Arkansas. My staff also hosts the Community Development Institute at UCA, which has been around for 35 years. We'll be celebrating our 35th annual CDI in August. Really what I feel like everybody needs to know about our organization is primarily we are a training and technical assistance group for community leaders across the state. So we work with communities from every corner of the state, doing a variety of training, including CDI, but outside of CDI, we do regional boot camps, we do poverty simulations, and on the technical assistance side, we do a lot of different technical assistance exercises such as walk audits. We even do some other leadership development simulations, community surveys, strategic planning, strategic doing. And we've actually dipped our hands into the arts directly in walking through a few communities with some branding processes. And we recognize that branding a community is a lot different than branding an organization or a business. And that's been a really great journey for our team. We have a partner called Thrive in Helena, West Helena, that we work on those projects together. But really where I see my staff coming in this project and intersecting is just we recognize that the arts is so all-encompassing, just like the field of community and economic development is. And arts, coincides with education, job creation, the creative economy, even recruitment, and in economic development directly, beautification, downtown revitalization. And so I'm just happy to be here for this conversation, excited to hear from everybody. And I'll wrap up with that.
Well, thank you and welcome. Jeff Hahn.
Hi, my name is Jeff Hahn, and I'm the city producer for the Little Rock 48-Hour Film Project. We are a time-based filmmaking competition that occurs annually. We award films locally, and our winner goes on to Filmapalooza, our global award ceremony screening. And then we select the top 10 to 12 films out of that to screen at a dedicated spot at the Cannes Film Festival Cannes Short Film Corner.
All right.
We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. And a little note, our co-founder, Liz Langston, is actually an Arkansas native. So.
Well, welcome and thank you. And next we'll hear from Scott Metter.
Click the wrong button. All right. My name is Scott Metter. I'm a professor of art and design at University of Central Arkansas. I am also here as an individual and not necessarily a representative of my department. At UCA, I teach digital media courses, so animation, video production, and fine arts. Outside of UCA, I'm a professional animator, and I've been doing animation for mainly live events for a really long time. So concerts and plays and other, again, other types of live events, different types of projection events, as well as helping design. I have a theatrical background, so I help design events like that. So
All right.
that's
Well,
me.
thank you and welcome. And Shauna Metter.
Hi, I'm chair of the Film, Theater, and Creative Writing department at UCA. Film and theater really have technology baked right in. I am also the executive managing, I'm not sure what my title is, for the Arkansas Shakespeare Theater, which has been on hiatus for 2 years. We are undergoing a reimagining of the festival. And one of the big values, the big core values that we are going to start pursuing with the festival is making it really about Arkansas artists, as opposed to bringing in artists from the outside as much. And part of that is a collaboration that I'm currently working on with University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. So the Fayetteville UAF's theater program and our and the Arkansas Shakespeare Theater will be working together moving forward to produce the festival. And I see a lot of opportunities there to really sort of bring that that theater arts to all of Arkansas, not just Conway.
Thank you. Greg Nampos.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see a lot of faces that I know, and I'm excited for this call. And I was when Sandy told me about the Act, I guess it's 577, and what this was doing, I thought that was a great move that I know the Arkansas for the Arts kind of spearheaded, and so congrats on that. I'm actually CEO of Nabal's Properties, which we're a Conway-based commercial real estate and development company, but I also do a lot of consulting on placemaking economic development, which obviously the arts and the creative economy are a key part of how you approach that and revitalizing communities, whatever size they are across our state. Creating the place, but then also programming it with all the arts is what big part of that, how you bring that together. I'm on a couple of boards too that are directly involved with the creative economy. The Argenta Community Theater here in downtown North Little Rock in Argenta, as well as the Arkansas Cinema Society. And I'm also on the Main Street Arkansas Advisory Board. So all those, there's a lot of synergies going on between all of those. But just knowing that the main thing is seeing how with all these different organizations and groups that are out there that are all working towards creating that, helping to bolster the creative economy, just trying to find how you cluster those together in the right mix in the right place to really make places thrive. So,
well, thank you for being here. How about Becca Poland?
Hi, I'm Becca Poland. I am the co-owner of Arkansas Circus Arts. I'm also a professional circus artist. I spin fire, I stilt walk, I'm an aerialist. I also teach. So our company, Arkansas Circus Arts, we provide circus art entertainment within the state of Arkansas. And we have a talent pool of about 20 circus artists that we book local here. We also are a circus art school. So the main part of our business is teaching and building community here in Arkansas. We teach aerial arts, we teach acrobatic arts here, and we teach to both youth and adults. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. And our communication specialist for Kansas for the Arts, Elizabeth Riddick.
Nice to meet everybody. As Garbo said, I am the Arkansans for the Arts contracted communications person. So a lot of the emails and newsletters you see are from me. It's nice to put some faces to those sends. In my other life, though, I am also a professional performer. I'm a classically trained vocalist, and I'm the arts administrator at Wildwood Park for the Arts, which is more what my purpose here today as part of this meeting is a representative for Wildwood. We are located in West Little Rock. Our goal is to be West Little Rock's home and Central Arkansas's home for nature and the arts, which we do by providing 7 days a week access to our 105-acre grounds, but also by providing cultural and educational and other artistic programs in our theater and in the grounds. So we're looking forward to bringing our festivals back. We've worked with Circus Arts before and several other organizations. So as Shauna mentioned earlier, technology is very much baked into theatrical work and also into any kind of other musical performances these days and festivals. So this is a very exciting focus group to be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. So another board member for District 6, Gail Seymour.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to meet you all. I'm Gail Seymour. I'm professor of art history at UCA. I'm also the associate dean of the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. I do lots of things when it comes to the arts. One of them is to run the Artists in Residence program for the campus. All of our students pay an arts fee, so we have a rather generous budget. And so right now I'm working on, I think I've created 26 contracts with artists that we're going to be bringing in for 21-22. It's going to be an embarrassment of riches at UCA in this coming year. It really is. I'm also especially interested in community building and placemaking through public art. And I hope we can talk about public art ordinances and other things that we might create for our state, for our counties, for our cities.
Thank you. And another board member, Sarah Strickland for District 6.
Thanks, Garbo. I won't repeat my name since you just said it, but I'm the executive director of a new nonprofit that directly relates to the creative community called the Center for Cultural Community. And our mission is to build and cultivate support for creative people. We do that via three main means, which are we open avenues for assistance, we provide access to knowledge, and we foster opportunities for connection. Our hope is to ensure that the talent that remains, that exists in Central Arkansas stays in Central Arkansas by building a better community of support for the people that work here in the arts. So we work directly with the creative community and seek feedback from them on the things that are missing for them in terms of support and resources and assistance, and are trying to build, kind of put some fingers in some of those dams and build gaps or fill the gaps in the gaps that they have in their lives. So one of the main things that we're doing that I'm excited about this conversation is that we've heard a lot of feedback about the need for some kind of platform for communication and connection that would be a resource sharing center for people. We're calling it a resource library, but the word database comes up a lot, but there's a definite need for more collective information and communication and stuff like that. So this is exciting.
All right. And Jason Zach, welcome.
Hey, everybody. Sorry for being late. I had a work meeting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I work at the Emerging Analytics Center, which is located at the UA Little Rock of Arkansas. So the university has this like research and development lab that I work at. My background is I've worked 10 years in the game industry. So I was a 3D generalist. So like a little bit like what Scott mentioned, I have done animation, I've had to rig characters and props, looks like an armature, building 3D things. Actually, like more like real-time 3D development instead of like Pixar and DreamWorks 3D like movie type of away from that, more towards real-time, something that has to run like on your mobile or on your desktop as you interact with it. So that's the reason why I'm out here, is the EAC was looking for someone that had that experience to kind of like develop a lot of virtual and augmented reality simulations and training and walkthroughs and designs. And actually, it's funny, Greg Napholz, I think we actually met because we worked on a Tulsa Zoo design for you guys, like maybe 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And I had roommates that were like in the college, the circus arts. So that's kind of cool that we have all these mixed backgrounds around here. So that's good. So I guess, I mean, I guess I could talk more about the EAC. I don't want to take too much time, but really our focus is tying in the students to learn using their skills, mainly from engineering and programming, but there are arts tied into it. We've had art students, but we've had even students that are just, they're thinking programming and engineer or machine learning, but then they take one of my courses, which is 3D modeling and or user interface, user experience course, and then they start getting into more of the visuals and the arts that tie into the building of these applications and designs that we use. And as far as what Mrs. Seymour and I think Mrs. Riddick said, I'm also freelancing. Also, I get to help work on using my 3D skills to help an artist named Matt McLeod. You may know him, but anyway, he's been doing like murals around Little Rock and the surrounding areas, and so I'm not kind of confined to just the EAC, but I wasn't really sure what this was all about, so I just wanted to sit in and kind of figure it out. But maybe I'll learn as we go, and I'll stop talking. So okay. I'm from New York, so I say talk. So I'm gonna.
Thank you all for following instructions. We made record time with our introduction, so now we can really get into the nuts and bolts of why we are here. So Lenore, will you say what's the end game for the focus group? What will we do with this information, and why is this so important?
Okay, well, first of all, a couple of things. Jason, to your point, I would think that most of the people on this call probably have had numerous either careers in different areas or meanderings or dipping toes into all different kinds of creative waters. And quite honestly, that's exactly, of course, always what we're looking for. This is really making connections across all of those different ponds, if you will. And in fact, if you look back, as I'm able to over decades, you realize that as long as you're kind of on that creative path and you meet all these interesting people along the way, really the entire idea of the Art and Technology Bootcamp came from, I wonder what would happen if you were able to be in a room with some of the coolest, most creative people that you've ever met. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter what I can dream up. What we're looking for is what you can dream up, and especially those over the course of careers, as you get to watch all the different changes that come about. If you're at the front of a curve, Gail's very familiar with this one because she writes so many grants that implement that front end of a curve and actually follow it through. And so the idea here is, what would happen if you got those people together? What would happen if you actually then were able to take those ideas and talk to your state legislators about them? Because one of the things that's highly unusual here is that that's exactly what we can do. It's never happened before, to the best of my knowledge, on such a statewide basis. And yet again, it's thanks to, of course, Senator Elliott. Now, to give you a little bit of a background, there's going to be a Republican and a Democrat from each of the arts districts all around the state that's part of this legislative art and technology bootcamp. We're going to be gleaning all this data, all this information, all of the super cool ideas that come out of all these conversations. and then have a conversation with the legislators. We hope that it's in person. Depending upon how things go with the pandemic, we have no idea what it will shape up to be, but we do know that in August of 2022, August, September, there's going to be a report that goes to the governor, goes to economic development, goes to anybody and everybody throughout the state. So all these ideas that seem like they might be pie in the sky really may not be, A, when you look at it statewide. B, when you start to make connections around the state. So previous focus groups, when I've asked the question, okay, if I was a fairy godmother and I could wave a wand and poof, make your idea happen, what would your idea be? So I'm going to put that question to you in a moment, but I first started to realize that I believe the UCA or the Conway, what is that, Center for CDI?
Community and Economic Development. Yes, ma'am.
How many people here have intersected with that? Shelby has. I have. Who else?
Aaron has. I've been through CDI.
Aaron is a PCED, so.
Okay. I've taught at it. And so what
Sandy has.
Sandy has. Okay.
Yep, Sandy's graduate.
I have.
Is that Greg?
Hi, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, hi, Shelby. I did speak a couple of years, several years ago on at the CDI.
So the reason why I raise this point is because we all build on the work of others. There's nobody that just poof emerged and knew everything all at once. And so this sharing of information is critically important. The other aspect of why I raise this specific point about CDI is because very often funders say, well, I don't really know if I want to keep spending money on that, because how do I have proof that anything came about it? Well, the fact is, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But what starts to happen, it's like Jason, he said, well, I kind of want to sit in and see what this is about and who these people are. As we start to meet each other, what we realize is there may be many points of origin or many commonalities that we have. And the idea is, first of all, meeting each other, talking to each other, finding out how we really can maybe indeed wave a magic wand and make something happen down the road. So I now would like to open it up to any one of you. If I had a magic wand, what would be your dream?
Lenora, I'd love to share. That's okay with everybody. I just want to share something that I mentioned in my intro. We've been working with a few cities, one per year, to develop a brand for certain communities. So Van Buren, Magnolia, Valonia are some of the examples of communities we work with. And we have come to recognize a lot of our rural communities have no identity. And it is very difficult for them to engage in a large way, to connect, to recruit, to engage citizens when they really don't have that identity that they're tied to. A lot of communities, I dare you to just look up some of the communities around you. Guarantee you they probably don't have a community brand if their population is under 20,000, especially if they're under 10 or 15,000, which is our primary focus. They probably don't have a great presence on the web either. And so it's really hard for them to compete regionally, much less globally and nationally, when they don't have just that baseline of just having a brand developed. So that's something that we've been doing that, like I said, we have a partner in Thrive. They're a nonprofit out of Helena, West Helena. While we're developing that brand for our community, we also do a lot of community work on just helping them identify what's important to them as a community, both on the community development and the economic development side. And we hope that that process is a catalyst for other quality of life initiatives, economic development initiatives down the line. And so if I had a magic wand, I would make sure that every community in the state had an identity that they could build on at the local level.
That's bold. And I would think actually remarkably doable. Who else wants to jump in?
I'd like to
This is
jump in.
Pam Bax.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Pam.
Okay. So if we had a magic wand, lots of monies, we'd like to create, we've been working on creating a state-of-the-art career, what we're calling a career and workforce development center. We've begun since COVID-19, we began where we turned one of our classrooms into a studio and began working with local musicians to give them some space to create. And then working with our high-risk youth, doing videography, photography. We'd like to create a technology center that would have a media lab, production studios, centered around all of the technology that we would need to create, have our musicians create. What we found out is that there's limited space for musicians to come together and even do rehearsals. Some of them are musicians that were working in the church, and because of church closures, they didn't have the space or the opportunity that they need to even do the rehearsals or to what they call gig. And so we're looking to create a center that would allow for rehearsal spaces, the production spaces, media lab, dance studio. So if we had that magic wand, we would be creating that type of space.
Thanks, Pam. Gail, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring back the topic of public art because I think what we all need is some sort of a consistent funding stream to do these kinds of programs. So what I'd like to see with my magic wand is some sort of percent for art ordinance that would, again, either be statewide, countywide, citywide. It could be all of the above. And what would happen on these ordinances is that we would designate a certain percentage of new buildings and new infrastructure construction in our state that would be set aside for art. Most states that have big funding, big public art projects typically put 1% of these construction budgets and set it aside for art. And it could be fantastic. And it would add to what you're talking about, Shelby, with identity for communities, you know. It would do lots of things for our state. And just so you know, a percent for art really became big in the late 1970s and really blossomed in the 80s. And Arkansas, believe it or not, was one of the first states to have such an ordinance. It came out in 1985, and it said one half of 1% may be set aside for art. And because of that single MAY word, it has, to my knowledge, never been used. I worked with Senator Gilbert Baker sometime in the late 90s to try to get that changed. And so indeed, we went to the legislature and we changed it. And so now it says, unfortunately, it says up to 0.5% shall be set aside for art. And it was one of those sort of last minute things that we had to do to get have them listen to us at all, is to, again, make it so that there were these wiggle words. And so to my knowledge, it's still never been used. But imagine if we had this since 1985, what our state would look like today.
Gail, I want to clarify. So you're saying that you did the work. Is that law on the books?
As far as I know, I can send you the information.
So it shall, 1/2 of up to shall be?
Up to 0.5% shall, but of course the up to can be 0. And that's where it's always been.
Oh. But it's on the books to the best of our knowledge. It's still there.
As far as I know.
Okay, because some of my understanding, which is very rudimentary, is that it's easier to enact something that's already on the books than to create it from scratch. So
Yeah.
that would be the, what year did you say that redo went into effect?
I wish I had looked it up before this call. It was sometime in the 90s. Sorry, my other phone is ringing. It was sometime in the 90s. I'll look it up and send it to you, Lenore.
Okay, perfect. All right, so here's the magic wand. Who else wants to jump in with some ideas? Elizabeth?
I'll take a go. One of the things that we really struggle with at Wildwood is not finding performers or talent or things to do. There's so many like incredibly talented people in Arkansas, in Central Arkansas specifically. That's never a problem. What we do run into, however, is not what necessarily the audience sees, but issues supporting those programmings with technical professionals. So audio visual techs, people who do that at a professional level who have the training. Our community has produced many people who have those skills, but has not produced the support system to allow them to stay here in Arkansas. We've gone through 3 or 4 people who have not been able to stay in the state. They've moved to Memphis or to Nashville or to LA or New York. And while it's something that we've been able to manage, it's also something that literally every event, literally every performance relies on these technical professionals. And no matter what genre you're doing, whether it's live music, art galleries need these folks. It's absolutely essential for the film industry. So building some sort of ecosystem where we can not only train these folks, but retain them so that we're not always struggling to find people technical professionals who can support what we're doing. Because if you don't have the person to run the system, what equipment you have doesn't matter. We'd love to upgrade all of our systems, but it's hard to find reliable professional folks who can stay. And we'd love to hire someone full-time, but we have a hard time keeping them here, so.
Interesting. And I see a lot of heads nodding. It's almost as if, yes, the Arts Council has grants to be able to bring in different talent, but there isn't a grant there that says, and technical support for said artists. That's an interesting point. And of course, unless you've already been caught in the vortex of technology doom, which I have embarrassingly many times, you don't even think about that. You just think about the front talent. Who else has a magic wand idea out there?
I was going to add, I'm sorry, I just jumped in there.
Please do, jump in.
I was going to add to that I've trained a lot of students who have left Arkansas for practically any kind of opportunity to stay in the creative space. So I can definitely add to what Elizabeth's saying is those people are learning those skills, but they're just not staying here.
So I'll throw this out there, and I realize it's almost impossible to answer. However, some folks, if they're from Arkansas, may just want to see what the grass looks like on any other side of the street, just because it's like, well, man, I mean, if I've grown up here, I want to go to New York, I want to go to LA, I just want to see the rest of the world before I decide what I'm going to do next. So how much of it is wanting to get out and explore? If you're creative, you're sort of inclined towards, I want to see if the grass is greener. I want to go out and make my mark in the world. And how much is, if we had robust paying opportunities? So it doesn't necessarily have an answer there, although I see Elizabeth about to jump in. Jump in, Elizabeth.
I can offer some perspective as somebody I'm 28, so still young in this industry, especially. And a lot of these people who have left are my peers. And I would love for them to stay and to work with me, but the general consensus is that the work is not stable enough to start with. A lot of it is very gig based. So organizational support to allow individual organizations to hire these folks full time, provide them benefits, would be the biggest thing. Because a lot of folks my age who have that technical training are leaving the state because they can't find steady work that allows them to pay their bills, and they can't find work that provides them with healthcare. So they're moving to markets that have those opportunities.
Makes sense. Who else wants to jump in there?
I'll go ahead and jump in because as a segue from the discussions of the talent retention and attraction, one of the things that I've been really focused on is, how we as a state can work with all of whether the statewide partnership from the state level, regional level, and local level to attract and retain talent. And one of the things I found is that there's a lot of people, for example, in 2020, Arkansas was the top 10 inbound relocation for remote workers into our state. And primarily Little Rock metro area was actually in the top 10 metro areas. And just another interesting aside is that United Van Lines and U-Haul, we were like in the top 10 as far as overall states of inbound relocations. So we've got people coming in, and I'm seeing here in Argenta, young people that are moving here from out of state, that it's probably kind of the reverse of what you've seen with the question that was posed about people from Arkansas wanting to go check out what it's like in other places. Well, we're seeing some of the same thing here. So it goes kind of both ways, but I think a lot of where we really need to work on is being creative about how maybe organizations can pull their resources together for some of these technical positions or other positions that they may not be able to offer full time, but you have a coalition come together to fund that. Another thing it's on the way, and I think this is going to be a huge boon to keeping a lot of this technical and creative talent here, is we just passed a pretty robust film incentive package in the legislature, which is going to really, it's the rebates and the tax credits that are part of this are equal to what Georgia, and in some case exceeds what they have. And we still have a cap on it, but I think when they prove it out to show how much of that is going to grow our economy, I think in the next 2 to 3, 4 years, you're going to see a huge influx of people who are able from Arkansas that have maybe had to relocate for work, will at least be coming back half time, if not full time. So I do see those things, on the horizon as far as that goes. As far as some of my ideas, or if I had the crystal ball, and I mentioned this in, I guess the initial survey, is that in looking at all 75 counties, is the idea of having, imagine that not every county has the town square, but most of them have something like that around the courthouse or whatever. But imagine that every one of those has a thriving innovation hub that includes, the art maker space, all the creative, pursuits, gallery space, place for film and music. But these, the food, community, the food hubs, everything that you see sprouting around in a lot of places in Arkansas, but that there's a concerted effort to have some level of this type of amenity that's right there in the downtown that becomes that kind of the magnet for the people of that county. And in some counties, you have, depending on population, you have more than one, and then they're all connected through a system of trails. We're building a lot of statewide trails that are going to link a lot of these downtowns together. And I think, you look at how all that, the active, the recreational side with the creative side coming together would be getting that completed in a way that really helps to basically will be a magnet for people to move to an area, and will be the thing that attracts people to move back to an area. Because we've seen what Iowa's done. They've proved out that not everybody that graduates from college, and they have three main state universities. And they did some research several years ago that said these people would move back. Most of these kids that came from these small towns in Iowa would move back if there was a there, if there was something to do, if the town, there was, they could meet their mate, they could, and so you're really seeing, and they've done a good job of incorporating placemaking into their overall economic development plan. So just with that said, we have the same ability to attract people back to a lot of these small towns, especially that have been losing population, if they can create that there.
Excellent. Excellent. You said that was Iowa?
Yes.
Okay.
And Michigan too. And Michigan too is, they've lost population. Michigan has, and they've turned their entire economic development strategy around placemaking and the creative economy.
Excellent. Teresa, did you want to weigh in?
Sure. I'm one of those people who paid United Van Lines to bring my stuff to Arkansas in 2020.
Great.
Yeah. So obviously I haven't been here long, but I'm hearing so many things that I just want to echo what so many people have said so far. I've lived in communities that have 1% for the arts, and it makes a huge difference. I want to echo Elizabeth and say, it doesn't matter what kind of art you're making, but access to affordable healthcare is so key to keeping artists healthy and able to create their art. What Pamela was saying about having the equipment and the space to make is really important. And it seems like there's a lot of affordable space here in Arkansas, but I'm not seeing as many organizations that have, you could go in and rent equipment or become a member and use their equipment. Maker spaces, those sorts of spaces are incredibly important. What my crazy idea, so I've been spending a lot of time outside, at least over the winter, because I moved here from Ohio, so it seems really warm here for me in Ohio, or after spending winters in Ohio, but I want to find a way to use technology to connect the arts and the outdoors. I would love to do some kind of statewide AR project where we commission an artist to do augmented reality works outside on trails or in these like incredibly popular, beautiful areas that tourists come here in Arkansas. So that's kind of my crazy idea. And I would love for it to be all across the state.
Okay, so to this idea of it being crazy, I don't think it's crazy at all. To Craig's point about the trails, right now the trails are like the hot thing in Arkansas. In that trail development, to Gail's point about the public art, in some of those trail conversations, they're saying that they want to place art. And so when you start to kind of draw back that lens and have what, quite frankly, are all these different casual conversations, if you're a fly on the wall, so look at me as if I'm the fly, right? And you get to go, wow, you know what? He mentioned that and she mentioned that and that one mentioned that. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't seem far-fetched or magical at all. It's more a matter of, wow, look, so this woman moved from Ohio and she's now at that museum. And Greg is working on this stuff and Gail's working on this stuff. And so actually, it really is all about getting that creative connection together. Who else would like to weigh in on this magic wand idea that's not quite so far-fetched? Becca?
Yes. So with circus, we are the circus community here in Arkansas, and with 2020, we've seen a huge decline with the gig work. A lot of us work gigs, and a lot of our circus artists here, we are, except for me and my business partner, we're like the only full-time professional, like full-time circus. A lot of them they work their full-time job or part-time job, and they do circus part-time, right? So in their off time, they are training circus and doing like creative work and whatnot. There's not really a lot of support. And, something that we've tried to do is, that creative growth here, developing artists and circus artists here, it's really hard, like was mentioned, healthcare, not being able to support our circus artists here. And even, when we do some of this gig work, me and my other friend, like we do different, because we also do visual arts, we do these living statues, we do these costuming things, like we were creating these pieces and we're like, wow, we just spent all of our gig money just to do this gig without even really compensating ourselves. And that's maybe, like pricing wise and whatnot, but it is, like the market here, it's Arkansas, and I know and it's getting better. We also produce shows. That's my passion, is producing theatrical circus shows. And that also requires a lot of time and directing, or getting director and getting all the technical help with that, and with funding. All of this comes down to oh, we want to do this thing, but we're short on funding. We want these people to have these experiences. We want to train these people on stilts, but we costume, the full on support that's required is a huge thing. So, if I were to have a magic wand, of course, I think everyone here is like, if we had the funding, being able to produce an awesome show and create talent that is, that we're able to compensate, because a lot of our shows are volunteer driven. We are producing the show so that we can pay the bills for the venue. And then we're producing it so that we can pay the artists as well and anyone in support. But then it comes down to wow, here's your little tiny, check after everything's said and done. And it doesn't really compensate for all the time and hard work that has gone into it. So it's really, a lot of people that are doing this is for the love of circus, but then that doesn't really attract any of the talent, higher level talent. I would love there to be a residency program for a high level circus artist who could be here and for say 6 months or a year and training with our Arkansas talent here. And, being the star in the show, but able to compensate and then, provide benefits.
The benefits are big. Thank you so much, Becca. Jeff, I think that you wanted to weigh in before we close out here.
Yeah, just earlier on, my wish or dream, I would just like to see some sort of, access to, industry standard or open source creative software at every local library in the state. I would just like to see, the cost barrier gone. That if anybody wants to learn it or be able to, access it, learn it, it's there for them. And especially in our rural communities.
In the film industry, was there specific software to a specific industry or in general?
When you're getting started, I think the best program is the one that you have available to you. I would like to see access to, this is a long shot, but Avid, Pro Tools, 3ds Max, Maya, Nuke, Photoshop. A lot of these applications are not just unique to film and video. They can be used for UI design, wireframes, website design. I just think it's really important. I mean, you never really know where your talents lie until you get a chance to try something. And I feel that a lot in our state, due to a digital divide, do not get that opportunity.
Well, and this came up in another focus group in terms of the software. Interestingly, it came from a teacher And she indicated that she's not able to show her students that they're professions outside of fine art because she has no access to any professional software to even teach the kids.
There
And
are
so
low-cost alternatives out there. Do they have similar features? Yes. Do they have the exact level of functionality? No, but it's something. I would, even if we could get workstations to people, at least maybe we can get the software distributed since it is open source and free. It's something. So.
Well, and it's come up in the other focus groups. So we have 5 minutes left. Did anybody else want to weigh in on the magic wand question? Shauna, was that you?
Yes, but I think Scott may want to piggyback off of what Jeff said, so I yield the floor to him.
Yeah, mine is real. Well, I have two, both real simple. One is for the public space. It would be really great for trails and in cities and everything to provide electricity. And when thinking about public art and that kind of stuff, not just think about statues, and consider light and screens and other ways of doing public art. But also, I ran across this thing last week. I just posted it to the chat, but it's something the NEA put together, started like 3 years ago, and I guess they're just now really getting it out there. But it seems to have a lot of parallels to what the boot camp is all about. And it talks about software, it talks about hubs, it talks about what organizations can be doing to support digital artists or artists in general. It talks a lot about artists. For those of you who don't really understand the technology or what all the possibilities are, it has a lot of definitions, and it's really fantastic. I'm still digging through it. So I highly recommend everybody here read this.
If you could send that link, that would be swell.
Yeah, and I put it in the chat, so.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Shauna?
My magic wand dream is, as I said, we are reimagining the Arkansas Shakespeare Theater. And I have a goal of creating kind of a new works festival that is inspired by Shakespeare, kind of like what's happened with all of the Star Wars stuff. You know, we started out with Star Wars movies, and then we have Mandalorian and all kinds of offshoots of things. But works that are inspired by the works of Shakespeare, but are more contemporary, dealing with more contemporary issues. So they could be sort of spin-off stories. There could be experimental films, poetry, but all of this would expand the Arkansas Shakespeare Theater Festival to a much longer period of time, for a whole kind of summer, and might take place in other venues around the state, and not just the limited number of Shakespeare plays that there are.
Right. Well, I'm going to pitch it back to Garbo.
Okay.
There you go, Garbo.
Well, my magic wand would be in arts and education. I would really like to see each district have camps for middle school, high school, or college level students where we talk about arts and technology, so that we can have a collaborative spirit and it be funded by the state, so that young people could see what the opportunities were, and that we could bring in other people, maybe from out of state, and all of the ideas, so that Arkansas can stay on the cutting edge. Because if we don't start with education, arts education in those fields, you're going to lose out. So that would be my magic one, to figure out how to get boot camps or camps for middle school, high school, or college level in each district. Thank you all so much for sharing your ideas. This has been one of the best focus groups, because it's District 6. I'm going to have to say that. But thank you all for your time. And I think that's it. I mean, we have your recordings and you'll be hearing from us. This is not just a meeting to plan another meeting. We are going to have some action.
Thank you. Thank you, one and all.